I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 5 years now. We met in college, fell hard, got engaged, and I honestly thought we had something solid. She was the kind of girl everyone liked, smart, confident, a little bitchy at times, but in a way that kinda made her even more attractive. She knew what she wanted and she'd go after it. That's what I liked about her, or so I used to think. At first, things seemed normal. We were planning our wedding, excited, talking about our future. But then little things started changing. Emily's phone became a constant source of secrecy. She'd hide it when I walked into the room, lock it when she was in the bathroom, and her texts became more cryptic. I noticed her flinching whenever I got close to her phone, her eyes darting away like she was hiding something. I brushed it off initially, telling myself she was just being paranoid. Maybe she was worried about wedding stress or something. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then there were the late nights. At work, she'd say she was stuck late, but her stories didn't add up. She'd come home smelling different, like perfume I didn't recognize, or she'd be slightly more tired than usual. I didn't want to be that guy who's paranoid, so I kept quiet. Still, I started catching little clues. Her phone bill suddenly spiked with unknown numbers, and her social media activity was more secretive than ever. I'd ask her about it, and she'd dismiss me with a laugh, calling me jealous or insecure. But I wasn't jealous, I was suspicious. Then came the breaking point. I was home alone one evening, just sitting in our living room minding my own business, when my curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed her phone just to see if she'd notice. I wasn't snooping for no reason. I just wanted to see if there was anything suspicious. That's when I saw the messages. They weren't just friendly or flirtatious. They were intimate, heated, and explicit. She was talking dirty, planning secret meetings, and what really threw me off was the guy she was texting, my best friend, Mark. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. How long had this been going on? Were they even trying to hide it? I scrolled through the messages, each one more disgusting than the last. They'd been staying in hotels, sneaking around behind my back while I was planning our wedding with her. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind raced. All those nights I thought she was working late, she was fucking Mark, my best friend, the guy I trusted more than anyone in this world. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or just punch something. I stared at her phone, trembling. I'd always been a pretty chill guy, never one to blow up easily, but this was next level. How could she do this? How could Mark do this? The thought of her lying to my face, pretending to be the sweet, perfect wife I thought I knew, made my blood boil. I had every reason to confront her immediately, but I needed a plan. I couldn't just lash out, I had to think this through. So I took her phone, tucked it into my pocket, and waited. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed everything, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I knew I couldn't stay quiet. The trust was shattered. The girl I loved, the girl I'd planned my life around, had been sleeping with my best friend behind my back. And now, I was faced with the terrifying reality that my entire world was a lie. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything pointed to one brutal truth. Emily was cheating on me. The next morning, I woke up angry and numb at the same time. I didn't want to jump to conclusions right away, but the evidence was staring me in the face. I had her phone in my pocket, and I knew I couldn't just ignore what I'd seen. I kept going over the messages, the hotel stays, the late-night calls, the way they talked about secrets and not telling anyone. It was like a knife twisting in my gut, knowing she'd been lying to me for who knows how long. I decided I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it in a rage. I needed to be calm, collected, strategic. I waited until she was home later that afternoon. She was acting a little weird, more tense than usual, brushing off my questions, trying to change the subject when I'd ask about her day. My mind was racing, but I stayed quiet. I was trying to figure out the right moment, the right words. When she finally sat down in the living room, I took a deep breath and looked her straight in the eyes. Emily, we need to talk. I know what you've been doing. I saw the messages. I know about Mark. How long has this been going on? Her face changed instantly. Her expression flickered from confident to defiant. She tried to shrug it off, smirking, acting like I was overreacting. Oh, come on, Jake. You're just being paranoid. It's not what you think. She crossed her arms and looked away, but I wasn't buying it. I could see right through her bullshit. Don't lie to me, I said. I saw everything. The hotel stays, the late-night texts, the photos from their trip. You're sleeping with my best friend and you're lying about it. She rolled her eyes, then spat out, God, you're such a jealous idiot. Mark and I were just having fun. It's not a big deal. You're overthinking everything. Stop ruining everything before it's too late. Her voice was full of venom, like she was trying to make me doubt myself, but I wasn't falling for that. I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and a deep sense of betrayal. You call it fun? I shot back, voice trembling. You've been sneaking around behind my back while I was planning our wedding, while I was trusting you. How long has this been going on? Weeks? Months? She shrugged again with that bitchy smirk. You're so insecure, Jake. If you just chill out, maybe you'd see that I'm still with you, that I love you. Mark's just a friend. We're not even serious, so stop acting like it's the end of the world. I clenched my fists. I knew I shouldn't believe her, but part of me still wanted to believe she'd just be honest, admit everything, and maybe, just maybe, we could salvage something. But I knew better. The lies, the denial, they only made things worse. I told her I needed space. I went outside and sat on the porch, staring at our backyard, trying to breathe. The shock was still fresh, but beneath that I felt this terrible ache, like my heart was cracking in half. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? And Mark, my best friend, how could he betray me like that? I thought I knew them both, and now I realized I'd been blind. I spent hours trying to process my feelings. I felt a mixture of rage, sadness, and disappointment. The girl I'd loved, the girl I'd wanted to marry, was nothing like I'd thought she was. She was just a manipulative, cheating bitch who'd been playing me all along. And my best friend, the guy I trusted more than anyone, he'd stabbed me in the back, too. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it sooner, how I'd missed all the signs. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the entire betrayal. I thought about confronting her again, about what my next move should be. I knew this wasn't going to be simple or clean. I was hurt, furious, and I didn't want to just forgive and forget. But I also knew I had to decide what I really wanted, whether to fight for this relationship or to cut my losses and walk away. One thing was clear: nothing was going to be the same after this. I trusted her and she'd shattered that trust. I had to figure out what to do next, but one thing was for sure: I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without consequences. The next few days were a blur. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of it all. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. The girl I loved, the girl I was about to marry, had been secretly screwing my best friend behind my back. I'd always thought I knew her, thought she was the one. Turns out she was just a manipulative bitch who lied and fucked around while pretending to be perfect. I spent a lot of time alone, trying to think about my next move. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, but I also knew I couldn't just stay silent. I couldn't just pretend everything was fine. My mind kept circling back to that moment I saw her texts, her dirty messages, her plans, her lies. It felt like I'd been punched again and again, each time worse than the last. Finally, I decided I needed to confront Mark. I couldn't just let him get away with it. I found his number and with a pounding heart I called him. I kept it cool on the phone, but inside I was boiling. I told him I knew exactly what he'd been doing, that I'd seen the messages, and that I wasn't going to let him lie his way out of it. He tried to deny it at first, acting all innocent. Jake, I don't know what you're talking about, he said, trying to sound casual, but I cut him off. Don't bullshit me, Mark. I saw the texts. You're sleeping with my wife. How long has this been going on? There was a pause on the line, a long, uncomfortable silence. Then he finally admitted it in a way that made my stomach turn. Yeah, man, we've been seeing each other for a little while. I didn't want to hurt you, but she's just so different with me. You know, she's always been a pain in the ass, bitchy, manipulative, but with me she's more real. I guess I got caught up in it. That was the moment I snapped. I told him if he ever wanted to see his face again, he'd better stay away from her, and if I ever caught him near her again, he'd regret it. Hanging up, I felt a strange mix of relief and fury. At least now I knew for sure. No more guessing, no more doubts. Now I had to decide what to do about Emily. I went home, my mind racing. I was angry but also hurt deeply. I knew confronting her again was inevitable. I needed her to face the truth, face the damage she'd done. I sat her down a few hours later and told her I knew everything about Mark, about the hotel stays, about her lies. Her reaction was infuriating. She looked at me with that smug, bitchy smirk and said, "Oh, come on, Jake. You're overreacting. It's not a big deal. Mark and I were just having sex, that's all. You're too jealous, too insecure. Maybe you should get some help." I felt myself losing control. How could she just brush it off like that? Like I was some jealous fool who couldn't handle the truth. I stared at her, trying to keep my voice steady. "You think this is just sex? You think I don't see what you're doing? You're cheating, Emily. While I was planning our wedding, you were fucking my best friend. How do you even sleep at night?" She just laughed, that bitchy, dismissive laugh that made me want to punch her lights out. "You're so dramatic. Maybe I am cheating, maybe I'm not. Honestly, I don't care what you think. I don't love you anymore, Jake. I'm done pretending." Hearing her say that was like a punch to the chest. I felt my heart pounding so hard I thought I might faint. All my life I'd wanted to build a future with her. And now she was telling me she was done, that she didn't love me. How did it come to this? How could someone I trusted so completely turn into this manipulative, lying bitch? I knew I had to get out. I couldn't stay with her, not after all this. But I also knew I needed to do something more, something to make her pay for the pain she'd caused. I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I wanted her to know she'd lost everything because of her lies and betrayal. After she left the room, I sat alone, feeling bitter, broken, and furious all at once. I looked at her empty side of the bed and realized how much I'd invested in this relationship. All the plans, all the trust, gone. She was just a girl who lied and cheated her way into my life, and now she was throwing it all away. I made a silent vow. This wasn't the end. I'd find a way to make her regret this, to make her see what she lost. But for now, I had to figure out how to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart and move forward. I wasn't sure if I'd ever fully recover from this betrayal, but one thing was clear: I'd never trust her again. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever experienced. Every time I thought about her, about Mark, about the lies, I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and my mind kept circling around the same questions. How could she do this? How long had she been lying to me? Was I really just that easy to manipulate? I kept replaying every moment, trying to find answers, trying to make sense of the pain. I started to realize that staying in the house with her would only make things worse. The memories we shared, the plans we made, they all seemed like sick jokes now. I knew I had to get out. I called a friend, told him what was going on, and asked if I could crash at his place for a while. I needed space to breathe, to think, to get a grip on myself. It was a hard step, admitting I needed to leave her behind, but I couldn't stay in this toxic environment. As I packed my things that night, I felt so hollow I could barely breathe. I looked around our apartment, our home, and saw all the little things that once meant everything to me. Now they only reminded me of the betrayal. I felt a wave of anger and sadness wash over me. I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd thrown it all away. I told myself I'd never let her do this to me again, never let her see me broken like this. The next morning, I left. I drove away without looking back, feeling like I was abandoning a part of myself. I knew I had a lot of healing ahead of me, but at least I was free from the physical presence of her lies. As I sat in my friend's living room, I couldn't help but feel betrayed, angry, and numb all at once. My mind kept racing, trying to process what had happened and what to do next. I spent hours just sitting there, staring at the wall, feeling the weight of everything I'd lost. I kept asking myself why. Why did she do this? Why did Mark betray me like that? And most of all, why did I trust her so blindly in the first place? I kept reminding myself how confident I'd been, how sure I was of our love. Now that confidence was shattered, replaced by a deep, gnawing doubt. I started thinking about revenge, how to make her feel as betrayed as I did, maybe even more. I wasn't the revenge type, but I felt like I had to do something to regain control, to show her what she'd lost. The idea of exposing her lies to everyone, of making her look like the manipulative bitch she was, started to take hold, but I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't afford to make rash decisions or burn bridges before I knew exactly what I wanted. In the quiet moments, I kept coming back to the feeling of heartbreak. The girl I loved, the girl I thought I knew, was gone. All that was left was this hollow shell of a woman who lied, cheated, and manipulated her way through my life. I felt disgusted with her, yet there was a part of me that still mourned what we had, what I'd lost. It was like mourning a death, grief mixed with anger. I decided I needed a plan, not just to move on but to make her understand the damage she'd done. I started researching ways to expose her without making a scene, things that would hurt her but wouldn't ruin me in the process. I knew I couldn't just confront her again. She'd brush me off, deny everything, and I'd be back to square one. No, I had to be smarter than that. I had to hit her where it hurt, quietly, efficiently. So I set my sights on gathering more evidence, talking to some people we both knew who might have seen or heard something, and carefully planning how to reveal her to the world. I didn't want to ruin her entirely, just make her realize that she couldn't get away with this, that she had to face the consequences of her actions. It was about justice, or at least making her feel the pain I was feeling times 10. Looking back now, I realize how much this changed me. I used to be trusting, naive even, thinking love could conquer all. But betrayal like this, it strips you down to your core. It makes you question everything, your judgment, your worth, your future. I don't think I'll ever fully trust again, not in the same way. And honestly, I don't think I want to. I learned that sometimes the people you love the most can turn out to be the biggest assholes, just like Emily and Mark did. After I left the apartment and moved in with my friend, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. I didn't want to face anyone, didn't want to see anyone. I just wanted to be alone with my thoughts, to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. The pain was raw, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her smirk, the messages, the hotel photos. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But I knew I couldn't stay in that state forever. I had to get some clarity, and that meant taking control. I started writing everything down, the timeline, the evidence I'd found, my thoughts, my feelings. I wanted to be sure I had everything straight because I knew I'd need a plan. No more emotional outbursts or impulsive moves. I had to do this smart, calculated. One thing I was certain of, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I wasn't going to sit back and let her lie her way out of this one. I decided to gather more proof, just in case I needed to expose her. I talked to some friends who knew her well, asked if they'd seen anything suspicious, and kept my ears open for any stories that might confirm what I already knew. I also started thinking about how to approach her again, whether to confront her directly or to wait for the right moment. In the meantime, I focused on myself. I started hitting the gym again, trying to regain some sense of normalcy. I read a lot, self-help books, stories of betrayal and redemption, anything that could help me process what had happened. I was determined not to let her wreck me. I had to come out of this stronger, even if it didn't feel like it now. One night, I decided I needed to have a serious talk with her, face to face, clear and unfiltered. Not in anger, but with purpose. I texted her, asking her to meet up. I wanted her to see that I wasn't backing down, that I was serious about getting answers. She agreed, of course, trying to act like she didn't care, like she'd already moved on. But I knew better. She was just trying to manipulate the situation, to keep her head high while I was falling apart inside. When she arrived that evening, she was dressed up, trying to look confident, maybe even seductive. I could see the bitchy smirk on her face, like she thought she was winning. But I wasn't in the mood for her games. I stared her down and said, "Emily, I know everything. I know about Mark, the hotel stays, the texts, and I want the truth, no more lies. How long has this been going on?" She blinked, then scoffed. "You think I'm going to tell you the truth now, after everything? Please. You're so naive, Jake. You're just mad because I don't want to be with someone who's so insecure and jealous." Her voice was dripping with contempt. She thought she was untouchable, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I don't care what you say, I know what you've done. And I don't want to be with a liar, a cheater, someone who thinks she can just screw around and then lie her way out of it." I paused, feeling the anger building inside me. "You can keep pretending, keep lying, but I won't be part of your game anymore. I'm done." She rolled her eyes, scoffing again, acting like she was above it all. But I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. Because deep down she knew she was cornered, and I wasn't finished. I told her I was going to expose her, to tell everyone what she really was, someone who betrayed her vows, who lied and cheated behind her husband's back. She laughed again, a cold, bitter laugh. Go ahead, do what you want. Nobody's going to believe you. You're just a sad little man who's too stupid to see the truth. But I knew I had enough to make her regret everything. I've been gathering evidence, talking to a few people who might be willing to back me up. I was planning my next move carefully because I'd learned that revenge isn't about acting impulsively. It's about striking when the time is right and making sure the other person feels the full weight of their betrayal. That night, walking away from her, I felt a mix of relief and despair. Relief that I was finally taking control, and despair because I knew this was only the beginning. Emily had broken something inside me, something I wasn't sure I could ever completely fix. But I also knew I wouldn't let her ruin me. I'd find a way to come out of this, even if it killed me. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever endured. I threw myself into action, not just to get closure, but to make sure she paid for what she'd done. I didn't want her to walk away unscathed, thinking she'd won some kind of game. I gathered all the evidence I could, screenshots of the messages, hotel receipts, and a list of her lies. I spoke with a few mutual friends, people who had seen her acting suspiciously or had heard rumors. I was building a case, silently, carefully, because I knew that someday I'd have to face her again, whether to confront her or to expose her lies publicly. Meanwhile, I was also trying to repair myself. I went to therapy, trying to understand how I'd been so blind, so trusting. I read everything I could find about betrayal in relationships, about what it means to pick yourself up after being shattered. It was a long, painful process, but I knew I had to do it. I couldn't let her destroy me completely. Somewhere inside, I was still that guy who believed in love, who believed in honesty. But she stripped that away, piece by piece, and I had to redefine what trust really meant for me now. The day I decided to confront her again was a strange mix of dread and resolve. I knew I couldn't keep living in limbo, waiting for her to admit or deny everything. I sent her a message, short, direct, telling her I wanted to meet. Her response was cocky, dismissive, as if she didn't think I could do anything. But I knew better. I had what I needed. I knew she'd try to lie her way out, but I was ready. When she showed up, she was dressed to impress, obviously trying to look cool, trying to intimidate me. But I didn't flinch. I laid everything out on the table, showed her the evidence, told her I knew about the affair, about Mark, about every lie she'd spun. And then I told her that I wasn't going to be a part of her sick game anymore, that I was leaving and I was going to make sure the truth came out. Her reaction was classic Emily. She looked angry, then defiant, then desperate. She called me insecure, jealous, pathetic. She tried to spin the story to make herself the victim, but I cut her off. I told her that her lies, her betrayal, and her manipulation had cost her everything. Her marriage, her reputation, whatever respect she thought she had. I walked away that day knowing I'd done everything I could. I'd exposed her, even if it meant some pain for me in the short term, because I wasn't going to stay silent. I owed her nothing. She'd already taken everything from me. I realized that the love I once felt was gone, replaced by a cold, clear understanding that some people are just not worth trusting. In the end, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that betrayal cuts deeper than I thought, but it also teaches you who you really are. I might be broken, but I'm not defeated. I've come out of this stronger, more cautious, but also with a renewed sense of self-worth. I don't need someone who lies, manipulates, and cheats to be happy. I can be alone, I can rebuild. Looking back, all I can say is that trust is fragile and betrayal is brutal, but life moves on. Pain fades, wounds heal, and you find strength you didn't know you had. Emily's betrayal taught me that. And maybe someday I'll find someone who truly deserves my trust, not the girl who lied and cheated her way into my life and then out of it. I hope others out there who find themselves in similar situations remember one thing: you are stronger than the betrayal. Never forget that.